Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, co-founder of Easy Uni Prep, and today I'm going to share my experience of studying law at Oxford University, specifically at Lincoln College, from 2019 to 2023. I'll be focusing mostly on the more academic side of my experience at Oxford, rather than my experience as a whole, as I know many of you watching might be thinking of applying and want to know more about what studying at the university is actually like. So here we have a picture of my college, Lincoln College. For some background on me, I am a state school student, I grew up on a council estate, and I was on free school meals. So I didn't have access to all the resources or contacts to know how to get an offer to study at Oxford University. I found the application process quite difficult and confusing, and I had to be very resourceful to get the information I needed. A lot of organisations out there were offering resources, such as mock interviews, but the prices were absolutely astronomical. So that inspired me to start Easy Uni Prep, to ensure that I could pass on all the information I had accumulated, both during my application process and at Oxford, to future students. At Easy Uni Prep, we do this through our comprehensive online courses and our review services. So we have online courses on how to write your personal statement, where we also analyse successful personal statements and explain what they did right, as well as online courses on university interviews and how to find work experience. We also review personal statements as well as all the elements you need for work experience applications, such as CV, cover letter, LinkedIn profiles. We also have free resources throughout the academic year and share information through our blog posts. So, a bit about my background and application. I came from a state school background and was the first in my family to go to university. So that meant I had no real idea what studying law would be like, let alone at Oxford University. What helped me enormously before applying to university was attending summer schools and open days. So here we have a picture of the logo for Unique, which was a summer school I attended at Oxford University. And in fact, I applied to Lincoln College after staying there during my summer school because I immediately loved the college and I knew that that was where I wanted to apply to. Attending the summer school also gave me something to add in my personal statement and made my motivation for applying to the course more authentic. So now let's cut to the chase, what it's like to study at Oxford. So the weekly workload at Oxford can be intense. For each module that you're studying, and usually it's around 2 to 2.5 modules per term, you get a reading list. So your reading list includes cases, journal articles, sometimes textbooks that you need to read for that week. And then your task is usually to write an essay every week for that module based on what you've read in your reading list. These essays that you write and the marks you receive don't actually count towards your degree, but their purpose is rather to start getting you into exam mode and getting you into that mindset of preparing your exam technique. Essays are also really useful as they get marked by your tutors, and they can be a way to assess whether you actually understood the reading for that week. The focus is very different from school. So instead of relying on textbooks, you're encouraged to go straight to primary sources, so that's cases, journal articles, and form your own views and opinions. So independent thinking is very much the focus and highly encouraged at Oxford. You very quickly learn how to skim read and effectively make notes. There is quite a lot on the reading list, so you learn how to prioritise and read the most important things first. And often you might not manage to get through everything on the reading list, but you can catch up on anything that you missed out during the end of term breaks, which we call vacations or vacs. Tutorials are a central part of Oxford teaching. So what these are small sessions, often one-to-one or two-to-one with your tutor. You will have specific tutors for specific modules. Sometimes during a tutorial, you'll discuss the essay you've written that week. Other times, you'll explore a topic in depth. It really depends on the sort of teaching style of the tutor. Tutorials are usually held in your tutor's office in college, and they're a great way to get personalised feedback. Quite interestingly, the point of tutorials is not really to teach you anything, but rather to have a discussion based on what you have learnt, to see if there is anything that you specifically did not understand, and to explore anything you found interesting in the reading further. So it's much more discussion focused. It's very different to a lecture. But alongside tutorials, there are also lectures a couple of times a week. They're not compulsory, but I found them really valuable to attend. And occasionally you also have seminars, which are more like smaller classroom sessions. Usually seminars can be with your college cohort, or sometimes include students from other colleges too. So, in terms of what you actually study in your first year. So, in the first 2 terms of your first year, you study Roman law, constitutional law, and criminal law. You then take exams on those 3 modules at the end of your second term, so around March time. These exams are called law moderations, or law mods for short, and they don't actually count towards your final degree. They're more about tracking your progress and how you've been getting on. They're also really handy though if you're applying for training contracts in second year, so to become a solicitor, because law firms like to see your results. But you are not reassessed on these modules though after these exams, so you no longer really need that information after you've completed the law mods. More generally, you also do have exams at the beginning of every term, and that continues the whole way through your Oxford academic journey. These exams are called collections, and they're usually held within your college and marked by your tutors. And they also don't count towards your degree. They're just there to test your knowledge of the modules that you studied the term before. In terms of what you study after those exams, after the law moderations, at the end of your second term of your first year, you study in the third term of year 1 up to the end of year 3, the core modules. So that's administrative law, contract law, EU law, jurisprudence, land law, tort, and trusts. So that's what you study in your last term of your first year, right the way up to the end of year 3. However, in your third year, you are also given a bit more flexibility in that you can choose to study 2 additional options. So the choice is in that you get to pick what other modules you want to study out of a list that you're given. So in my case, I chose employment law and medical law and ethics, and I really, really enjoyed those options that I picked. So that there is an image of the law faculty right at the top there, and that's where most of your lectures and seminars are held, and it's also where the law library is located, where sometimes you may want to get resources from your reading list from. In terms of assessment, so the big challenge is that all the exams that count towards your law degree are all held at the end of third year. So you're revising everything at once. It's quite intense, but it also means you can see how everything fits together. So all the information that you've learnt from the last term of your first year up until third year. So that means everything apart from Roman law, constitutional law, and criminal law. A piece of advice would be to make sure your notes are great throughout and that you understand what you have learned, as you will need all of that content in third year. So you can't just, for instance, forget about what you learned in first or second year because it's all reassessed right at the end. Outside of academics, there are so many law-related opportunities at Oxford. One of the biggest is the Oxford Law Society, which is especially useful if you're thinking about becoming a solicitor. This is because they hold events like law firm presentations and networking dinners, which are perfect for building commercial awareness and giving you things to talk about in training contract applications, which most people start in their second year at university. I was also the Lincoln College ambassador for the Oxford Law Society, so I helped organise and promote their events. And that gave me even more insight into the profession, and that's an opportunity that's available to you. On top of that, most colleges have their own law society too. So at Lincoln College, ours ran smaller events and gave students a chance to get involved in the law community on a more personal level, whereas the Oxford Law Society is there for all colleges. So, to finish, I'd say studying law at Oxford is very different from what you're used to at school. You'll do a lot of independent learning, and the emphasis is always on forming your own opinions rather than just relying on what you've read elsewhere. Hence why they don't really emphasize us reading from textbooks. We're encouraged to read the primary sources ourselves so we can form our own opinions from what we read. There's also a huge amount of reading and essay writing. Essentially, you're writing an essay every single week. And it can feel overwhelming at first, but you definitely do get used to it. And I ended up loving it. One thing to keep in mind is that all your final exams, so everything that counts towards your degree, are at the end of your third year. So that means it's absolutely crucial to keep good notes and stay engaged in your first and second year rather than thinking that they don't matter. Trust me, it makes revision so much easier later on. Oxford is also just very exam focused in general. Coursework is rare and usually only comes in your optional papers, depending on what you pick at the end of third year. And also, one of the core modules, jurisprudence, does have a little bit of a coursework element, but every single core module, apart from jurisprudence, is examination only. So, finally, make the most of both the academic and social opportunities Oxford offers. It's a demanding degree, but there are so many experiences and communities you can be part of, and they really do make the whole journey worthwhile. And I ended up loving my time at Oxford and studying law. And also, I think the process of thinking that it encouraged me to get in, so independent thinking, has served me so well after I graduated, and I'm able to have my own opinions on things and independent thought. So thank you so much for watching, and if this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tips and university application advice. I'll be posting videos analysing my personal statement and what I did to get into Oxford next. Drop any questions you have in the comments below, whether that's about the university application process or about my time at Oxford specifically, or anything you want to know, and I'll see you in the next video.